The Intercollegiate Studies Institute, they completed a national survey to determine the civic literacy of Americans, specifically the impact of college education on one's civic literacy. The survey asked basic questions about American history, government, and principles of freedom and tested a random sample of 2,508 American adults. So he's quoting from this study here. He says, after all the time, effort, and money spent on college, students emerged no better off in understanding the fundamental features of American self-government. 71% of Americans fail the test. Fewer than half of all Americans can name all three branches of government, a minimum requirement for understanding America's constitutional system. The study also found that office holders typically have less civic knowledge than the general public. I think most of us watching the news can probably figure that out, unfortunately. That's not true of all, but there's a big portion of them that are that way. On average, they score 44%, 5 percentage points lower than non-office holders. Note that this study used the most basic questions about our freedom, so these weren't complex questions. So John W. Whitehead noted, when Newsweek asked 1,000 adult U.S. citizens to take America's official citizenship test, 29% of respondents couldn't name the current vice president of the United States, which that's pretty weak. 73% couldn't correctly say why America fought the Cold War, and more critically, 44% were unable to define the Bill of Rights. It is little wonder that a survey by McCormick Tribune Freedom Museum found that fewer than 1% of adults who responded to a national poll could identify the 5 rights protected by the First Amendment: freedom of religion, speech, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government. But it gets worse. Many who responded to the survey had a strange conception of the First Amendment. For example, this totally gets me. 21% said the right to own a pet was listed. Some, 17%, said that the First Amendment contained the right to drive a car. And 38% believed that taking the Fifth was part of the First Amendment. Kind of hilarious, huh? All right. So, and then it goes on. It says, indeed, 76% of college graduates weren't familiar with the Bill of Rights, and 73% couldn't name the enemy of the United States in the Cold War. There are many similar statistics, he goes on. But I love this kind of summary that he gives us here. This is, once again, this is from Oliver DeMille, one of the great scholars of the U.S. Constitution, and someone who loves the classics and has studied the classics most of his life. He says, our modern citizen, or we could say our modern educational student out of our public school system, has lost something vitally important: a clear understanding of the complex and even the simple details of freedom.